For decades, the United States and China have shaped the world in parallel, one as the established superpower, the other as the emerging giant. But as relations have grown tense, the stories these nations tell about each other have become sharper and more revealing. Today, we explore a remarkable 20-year study of Chinese state media, People's Daily, the party's flagship newspaper, and what its portrayals of America reveal about power, propaganda, and political purpose. This is America the Failure? State media in China has always paid close attention to the United States, but attention is not the same as admiration. Researchers Christopher Carothers and Joshua Freedman examined 1,761 editorials published between 2003 and 2022 in People's Daily, a newspaper that functions as the party's official voice. Their goal? To understand how the Chinese Communist Party portrays the United States and what those portrayals signal to domestic audiences. What they found is a complex system of messaging, one that is more than criticism. It is a tool of legitimation used to reinforce why the party claims the right to govern China. The study examined 4 major editorial columns focused on international affairs. From these, the researchers selected every editorial that mentioned the United States at least 4 times, enough to ensure a substantive discussion. And the results were striking. Over the entire 20-year period, the tone fluctuated. But beginning in 2018, during the US-China trade war, negative portrayals surged and stayed high. By 2019 through 2022, over 90% of all editorials about the United States were critical, a dramatic rise that mirrors the deterioration in bilateral relations. When looked at closely, these criticisms form 3 powerful narratives that repeat, evolve, and reinforce one another. The first and most dominant narrative: the United States is a dangerous hegemon abroad. According to these editorials, America is a country addicted to power, a nation whose foreign policy is built on interference, domination, and conflict. People's Daily describes the U.S. as suffering from a war addiction, the biggest source of risk to global stability, and a country that stirs up tensions and then walks away, leaving destruction behind. Editorials accuse the U.S. of bullying developing nations, violating international norms, and forcing others to serve American interests. In China's case, the U.S. is portrayed as consistently meddling, from technology sanctions to military alliances to what Chinese state media calls a Cold War mentality. This narrative positions America as the primary disruptor of peace, not just globally, but specifically toward China.
The second narrative looks inward, at America itself. Here, People's Daily describes the United States as a nation with deep moral and social failings, driven not by ideals, but by money, inequality, and hypocrisy. According to these editorials, American democracy is a one-man show for the rich. Money, not people, drives political power. Human rights violations at home undermine American moral authority abroad. Commentaries highlight racial inequality, gun violence, lobbying, political gridlock, and corruption, often with the argument that these issues expose the true face of American society. The third narrative is perhaps the most dramatic. The United States is declining, politically, economically, and morally. In these editorials, America is a great power whose best days are behind it. Commentators describe the country as suffering from systemic political dysfunction, an inability to adapt, repeated crises, and leaders too divided to solve structural problems. This decline is not portrayed as temporary. Instead, it is depicted as a chronic illness, the result of unresolved contradictions dating back decades. America, in this telling, is staggering toward a future it is no longer capable of managing.
These 3 narratives, danger, bad values, decline,
do not stand alone. Often, they reinforce one another to create a coherent worldview. For example, a declining America lashes out abroad, becoming more dangerous. Moral failures at home explain political dysfunction, which causes foreign policy aggression. Weakness produces insecurity, which drives confrontational behavior toward China. During the COVID-19 pandemic, these lines merged powerfully. People's Daily argued that U.S. leaders attacked China to hide their own failures. In 2021, the newspaper even ran a 16-part series asserting that political manipulation could not conceal America's inability to control the virus. The message was unmistakable. America's problems abroad were symptoms of deeper problems at home.
But perhaps the most important insight from the study is this: criticism of America is also praise for China. Each negative portrayal of the United States is paired, explicitly or implicitly, with a positive portrayal of the Chinese Communist Party. America is a dangerous hegemon. China is a responsible global power. America has bad social values. China embodies harmony, stability, and people-centered governance. America is weak. China is strong, unified, and rising. This is what the authors call relative legitimation. Instead of simply attacking an external rival, the party contrasts America's flaws with China's strengths to justify its own leadership. During the trade war, editorials framed the U.S. as reckless and irrational, while describing China as calm, rational, and faithful to international norms. During COVID-19, America's failures were placed beside China's swift, science-based mobilization and its commitment to protecting life. In this narrative universe, China succeeds not despite America, but in contrast to it.
These portrayals are not random. They shape how cadres, citizens, and the broader public interpret international events and China's place within them. For the party, this messaging supports multiple pillars of legitimacy. Performance legitimacy, China delivers stability and growth while the US falters. Moral legitimacy, China upholds values while America betrays its own. Historical legitimacy, China, governed by the CCP, is fulfilling the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Through contrast, the weaknesses of the United States become evidence of the strengths of China's political system.
As the rivalry between the US and China intensifies, narratives matter more than ever. They influence how citizens view foreign threats, how leaders justify their policies, and how each nation interprets the intentions of the other. When American actions are framed as aggressive, hypocritical, or driven by decline, cooperation becomes harder. When China's actions are framed as rational and moral, in contrast to American instability, domestic support for assertive Chinese foreign policy grows. And so, narrative becomes strategy, not just a reflection of geopolitical tension, but a force shaping it.